So this video is for the sewing up and finishing of the mini tulip. So what you're going to need is some stuffing. You've made all your parts. You've got 3 separate petals. You've got a head and body, and then you've got your 4 limbs to go on. Now I'm using a kapok stuffing at this time. So this is a plant fibre stuffing. That means obviously it's totally natural and 100% compostable as well. So it's got a different texture to stuffings that you might have used before, but it's absolutely soft, and it's a bit more weighty, a little bit more dense when you stuff them. So it gives you a really nice feeling on your finished item. So pop that in like that. Use the heel end of your hook in the same way that we would normally. So a little bit of stuffing into the head and then into that body. And I have used a centralizer point on this one to mark the center of my tummy. So that'll help me when I'm sewing up as well. So I've got that in there. Then once you're happy with the amount of stuffing that you've got in, the only other bit other than the body and the head that needs a bit of stuffing will just be the bottom of the legs. So pop a little bit into the bottom of the legs. And then what you'll need to do is gather the stitches on the bottom of the body. So take the bottom of the body, just remove any fibres. The kapok does leave a little bit more residue of fibres when you put it in, but you can just pull those off afterwards like that, if you have got any that have transferred onto the crochet surface. Then to gather your stitches together, take your needle and do a running stitch in and out of your last round of stitches like that. And then fasten that off. And then I'm actually going to put my limbs on last on this one. I'm going to put my petals on first. So using my centralizer point as a guide, so that marks the middle of my tummy, I'm going to put 1 petal into the center of the face first. So where you did the different length of stitches at the top in order to create this egg-shaped petal of the flower, that will be the top of your tulip where that is. What I'll always do before I begin is just go through that last stitch like that, just to make that nice and even. And then I'm going to position that one right in the middle using my centralizer point as a guide like that. So I've got those tall stitches, the elongated egg shape up to the top, use my centralizer as my guide, and I'm just going to sew that into position. So a few stitches like that. And then I'm going to tack that into position just up the head. So with 1 in position, it's now time to overlap the other 2 on top on either side. So in the same way that we did before. Egg shape up to the top with those longer stitches there. Just sew into that first one just to neaten up that edge, and then overlap these in, leaving yourself, you're going to be sewing a space for the face onto the front, because your eyes will go onto the front if you are opting to put the eyes onto this design. And so what you want to do at the back is for them just to about meet at the back like that. So it might be easier to even hold both at the same time like that. Position them like that so you've got them meeting at the back, and then just do exactly what we did with the first one, sewing a few stitches under here. And then up through the back. Just before you put your final petal into position, check that you are about equidistant from that circle at the front. So if you look at the front of your tulip, there's the circle. Make sure that those 2 petals are about equally far away from each other, and then put your last one in place. Right, with your 3 petals in place, I would say it's a good idea to actually snip off your ends at this stage so that you've not got all those ends to contend with when we start to introduce quite a few more when we put our limbs on. So ends removed, let's sew on our limbs. So first, for the arms or the leaves that sit either side of the neck, just sew in the tip of those ends first. So on the pointy bit, sew in the end. Then sew the end closed. So with that lying flat like that, just sew between both sides of the end. Using your centralizer point as a guide again, position it in like that and sew a few stitches into that round where there's a colour change between the lime and the flower colour, so between your foliage and your flower colour. Same thing on the other side. Like that. And then repeat the same thing. Then last is to sew the legs in. So I've got that little bit of stuffing in the end that we did before. Close the leg off. Position your legs. So use your centralizer point as a guide again. Come down the middle like that. Position those legs at that angle. And I'm using the lime yarn here, which certainly my eye sees as the colour of all tulip foliage, but lots of different shades. And the lovely thing about tulips as a flower is the fact that they obviously come in such a wide variety of colours. So the one that I'm just making here is peony, this is violet, and this is pink here, but they honestly work in everything. So from the yellow to the all the different shades that we've got in both the pastel spectrum and the bright spectrum as well. The magenta ones are absolutely stunning. So same thing, sew across the top of the legs like that. Down the other side. So to sew the eyes on, what I do is I use a length of cream and black yarn, and the same thickness that I've used, so our double knit weight of yarn, which would be included in the kit if you got the complete kit. So what you need to do is find the centre of that point on the centralizer up to that circle. And the eyes, I've sewn them about 1 round down from that central circle. So if you want to be that specific, you can go for the same positioning. Obviously, the personality of your flower is very much created with how you sew these eyes on. So you can put them really as you wish. You can even use safety eyes. And if you're using safety eyes, all you need to do is add them onto that first petal before you sew them into position, because then you'll be able to get the backers in place. So come across, having drawn a little triangle with that eye. And do the same thing again. So I've drawn a little triangle using the cream yarn. So then with your contrasting piece of black, bring that through and to the bottom centre of those white triangles. And then just sew a couple of stitches in and around those triangles like that, so into the centre of the cream. A couple of little lines and then back down to put that smile into place. So just with the same thread in one motion, go down and across by about 2 stitches, and that'll finish you off with that lovely little smile in the centre of the face. So all you need to do then is snip off that thread, remove your centralizer, and your mini tulip is complete.